Thoughts constantly emitted from all individuals form an ocean or river of thoughts which completely surrounds the earth to a distance of approximately 1,500 feet. That follows the contour of the land. It flows up mountains, down valleys, and across the ocean. Man thinks and has his being in the bottom of the 1,500-foot deep ocean of thoughts. Even though many of us think only thoughts of peace and are constantly breaking down negative thoughts, still there is at times a gradual increase of disordered thought. With the conditions of hate, greed, fear, and error prevalent in our world, there is unquestionably a tremendous weakening of the magnetic web. The magnetic stresses and strains such conditions are creating can bring collapse and great catastrophes. Nevertheless, every one of you who steps upon the path of light to follow the Christ instead of man will be of assistance in bringing the final balance about with much less tragedy, for the more ordered the movement becomes, the more order and harmony will be established among the races of mankind, and therefore an easing of the stress upon the magnetic lines of force. The strength of the universe depends upon you and the part you play, however small, and depends upon you and, I'm starting to read it again, no, however small and humble in the eternal scheme of things. I'll read that again. The strength of the universe depends upon you and the part you play, however small and humble, in the eternal scheme of things. There must be spiritual as well as material preparation. There must be channels and gateways open so there will be a perfect balance of power that has to come about so the earth can resume its normal orbit in relationship to the whole. Perhaps man will step out into the cosmic light and fulfill his purpose when he fully realizes that his existence is a fulfillment of the purpose of the Infinite One. Though man is a tiny atom in the great reaches of infinity, yet without him nothing would have existed as a material creation, for through him the forces of infinity, the intangible part of the cosmic power, manifest, though as yet only immaterial radiations from the immaterial are measurable by man. Surely man should be proud of his place in the cosmic scheme. Chapter 6, Cause and Effect. We must face reality, the reality of what is happening. Man is in the condition of which he is today in the world because he is out of harmony with divine law. The turmoils of today have been bred by man through avarice, selfishness, prejudice, malice, distrust, and aggression. Man has in the past set up certain causes which he must now meet as effects, for that is the law of cause and effect, which no man ever made, yet under which every man lives, and has his being, whether he cares to admit it or not. There is one great law of compensation, the law of cause and effect, and this law directs our destiny. It is an infinite law, and no finite creature can break it by the smallest or greatest action. It is embodied in everything, material or immaterial, and everything exists in form because this law exists. It has been commonly referred to as, "Whatever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." Those causes have culminated into effects we are now confronted with, and because the causes were so often negative and evil, man faces certain perils brought forth in these effects. It is vitally important to man's welfare and future that he realizes he faces the results of his erring ways, which are creeping upon him from all sides. It is not necessary to recount the many incidents of the wrath of nature, freakish, unexplainable accidents, sickness, and disease, for the observant person knows they have been occurring. To enumerate further, he faces the loosening of evil forces upon the earth. He faces the results of creating hazard in loosening radioactive fallout into Earth's atmosphere. He faces the results of this man-made law of competition, a law of death. He faces the effects of the cruelty of vivisection, the medical tyranny and drug trust. He is confronted with the lack of a truly free and virile press, which could expose the danger we are in and help bring about a genuine peace. He has witnessed promotion of racialism and decisions made on non-segregation, a problem to be solved by peaceful, voluntary efforts and not by force. He faces what will come of working the first 4 months of every year for the tax collector. He is facing the pitfalls of a nation on the installment plan, with $1 trillion debt and mortgages on all our futures. Then there are the results of hidden hunger, brought on by consumption of chemically raised foods on depleted soil. Also, he will pay the price of a drastically inadequate educational system. Last, yet perhaps first of all, he faces the power of a subversive faction determined to keep truth from mankind. This group consists of really powerful individuals who, for selfish purposes only, really run the world's government, and who dare not let it be known that there is even greater power than theirs. The leaders of our various nations are but fronts and tools, but such a condition cannot continue for long, as there are those in our government who will try with all their power to guide the world into a state of peace and brotherhood. Then, in the final phase, man must face the changing of the poles of this earth, a natural occurrence which is met on other planets without the loss of life. But for this planet Earth, the presumption is that half its population will be wiped away in one great house-cleaning event, because the mass consciousness has failed to keep pace with the cyclic progress ordained for its own life force. Our brothers of sister planets have laid the groundwork and set into motion specific plans which are being carried out in preparation for the time of the shift. Survival will depend largely on how receptive man will be to the timely warnings when given by our brothers and the few of our scientists who are receiving help from them. In this world of ours, we have everything necessary for our beautiful existence, and there is no need for lack of or inflation. Every person could have a life of utopia. But what can the matter be? There isn't anything wrong with the world. It's the people that inhabit it. A heaven would not be heaven if it were not for the condition of things that occupy it. A hell would not be bad if it were not for the people that make it so. Although man dwells on one of the most fertile planets in the universe, and although he was endowed with the God-given power to make of life and the world a paradise, he is continually engaged in strife and war, and makes but futile efforts in the right direction. Man himself creates every condition on earth. He alone creates the good or the bad, which comes to him during the course of his life. His consciousness is at the bottom of his troubles. He cannot rightly lay the blame elsewhere. With all these realities man is facing, it can be seen that people have ceased to understand each other and are failing to cooperate in their undertakings. If the people of the world did understand each other today, would there be the conditions existent that are existent? Man could, if he willed, change all that completely. He can and should make this divided world an undivided one. The multiple superficial boundaries and false divisions must be dissolved. Since the present is changing, he cannot live as he did before, satisfying personal aspirations and practicing destruction. He will have to reform in his ways and thinking. It is absolutely true that if man cannot find or make a heaven here on earth in his everyday life, he will never find it anywhere else, though he search into the end of eternity.